The Vethran admiral's first transmission arrived 17 seconds after we crossed the boundary marker. Not a greeting, not a challenge, just a single clipped phrase in the Compact's trade dialect that our translator rendered as, "You are one ship." He meant it as a verdict. I was at the comms console on the Ardent Reaches bridge, and I remember the quality of the silence that followed. Captain Sarah Voss didn't answer immediately. She stood at the forward viewport, hands clasped behind her back, watching the Vethran armada on the magnified display. 43 warships in their traditional spiral of dominance formation, each vessel a layered cathedral of black ceramic and ritual gun bronze. The whole arrangement a theological statement as much as a military one. The Compact didn't just fight from doctrine, they worshipped it. "Log the time," she said to me quietly. I logged it, 0847 ship time. The Vethran formation held position at 11,000 kilometers. Standard intimidation distance. Close enough to communicate intent, far enough to allow the lesser party to turn and flee without losing face. They had done this to 42 delegations before ours. 39 had turned back. "Captain," said Commander Heron from the tactical station, "their targeting arrays are active. Passive sweep only. They're painting us." "Expected," she said. She walked to her chair and sat down, and I watched her look at the Admiral's channel indicator for a long moment before she opened it. "Admiral Veth, she said. "This is Captain Sarah Voss of the Ardent Reach, representing the Terran Diplomatic Corps. We are here to discuss the Calder Corridor Access Agreement. Appreciate you meeting us." The response came back in 11 seconds. I had learned to read Vethran pause length by then. 11 seconds from an admiral-controlled fury. "You appreciate us." The translator's voice was flat, but I could hear the cadence of contempt underneath the rendered syllables. "You are one ship. We are the first naval arm of the Vethran Compact. You were told to bring a delegation of appropriate standing. This is an insult." Voss nodded very slightly, as though he'd confirmed something she already knew. "The terms we're offering are unchanged from our last communication," she said. "Full Compact access to the Calder Corridor in exchange for transit recognition of Terran survey vessels in the outer Veth reaches. We'd like to discuss the details." Another pause. 14 seconds this time. On the display, 2 of the Vethran destroyers had shifted position, tightening the inner ring of the spiral, a gesture their doctrine called the closing hand. Heron flagged it silently on my board. "You will withdraw," Veth said. "You will return with a fleet that merits conversation. Then perhaps, we speak." I looked at Voss. Her expression hadn't changed, she said. "Lieutenant Draven, send the signal." I sent it. One character on a closed channel. A frequency the Vethran arrays weren't listening for, because it didn't exist in any of their signal libraries. We had been broadcasting it passively for six hours since before we crossed the boundary, and the 8 ships waiting in fold space had been listening for it the entire time. First thing the Vethran sensors registered was a gravity anomaly. Then 8. I watched the Compact's formation data on our shared tactical feed as their readings spiked. 8 fold space emergence events simultaneous, distributed in a precise octagonal pattern around their spiral of dominance at a range of 4,000 kilometers. Inside their formation perimeter, not outside it, inside. The Vethran doctrine, 600 years of codified naval theology, had no provision for that. The dreadnoughts came out of fold space already running, not weapons hot. Running, all systems nominal, engines at 1/3, no targeting locks, no charge signatures. They simply appeared, massive and dark and close, their hulls catching the amber light of the gas giant below and throwing long shadows across the Compact's inner ships. The Corvin Reach, led dreadnought, displaced roughly 9 times the mass of the largest Vethran vessel in the spiral. It materialized at 4,000 kilometers from the Admiral's Flagship, which by Vethran doctrine was a range reserved for Allied ships conducting joint maneuvers. The Compact's formation began to come apart. Not a rout, their discipline was real, their crews were veterans, but the spiral shape, that 600-year-old expression of supreme naval confidence, fractured at 3 points as captains moved to respond to emergence events there. Doctrine had no category for. I watched it happen on the tactical display, in something close to silence. The bridge of the Ardent Reach had gone very still. Veth Sorok's channel opened. not deliberately, on the Compact's ships. Channels were hot mic during action stations, and his ship had gone to action stations the moment our dreadnoughts emerged. What came through was not a transmission. It was an ambient recording of a man trying to find words in a language that didn't have them yet. I heard him say something to his tactical officer. The translator offered, confirm emergence count, confirm range, then a pause, then, how did they hold fold space inside our perimeter without our sensors? He didn't finish the question. Admiral Vethran, said Captain Voss, in exactly the same tone she'd used before. Unhurried, professional, without the faint edge of satisfaction in it. I want to be clear that our vessels have not locked weapons on your ships. They won't. We're here to talk about the colder corridor. The channel was quiet for 9 seconds, then 20, then 31. On the display, the Vethran spiral was attempting to reform. The captains were trained, they were trying, but the octagonal pattern of our dreadnoughts was not aggressive, and it was not passive. It was simply present. Inside a geometry their entire doctrine assumed was theirs alone. And the spiral's logic depended on being the largest, the most distributed, the most commanding shape in any given engagement space. It had no countermove for a formation that had already occupied the interior without firing. Commander Heron leaned close to me and said very quietly, "They're trying to figure out how long we've been capable of this." I understood what he meant. It wasn't the dreadnoughts that were breaking the Compact's formation logic. It was the question. Crossed the boundary in a single diplomatic frigate. We had waded through the insult. We had waded through the dismissal. And only then, calmly, unhurriedly, as a footnote to a corridor access negotiation, had we shown them what we'd brought. If we'd had this capacity the whole time, what else did we have? Vethran's voice returned. Controlled again. Controlled the way a man controls a thing that is threatening to slip. You said your terms are unchanged. They are, said Voss. Another pause. 18 seconds. Then we will discuss them, he said. Voss nodded again, to herself, or to the viewport, or to no one in particular. Thank you, Admiral. We'll hold current position, whenever you're ready. She closed the channel and looked at me. Logged the time. I logged it. 9:03 ship time. 16 minutes, from crossing the boundary to an agreement to negotiate. Our dreadnoughts held position, and would hold it through every hour of talks that followed. Not as a threat. No weapons charged. No tactical locks, but simply as a fact of geometry that Vethran doctrine would need to account for from here forward. I have been asked since what the moment felt like from where I was sitting. The honest answer is that it felt like paperwork. Captain Voss went over the corridor terms with her attaché while we waited for the Compact's delegation to organize itself. Heron ran a post-emergence diagnostic on the dreadnought fleet. I logged signal traffic and made sure the translator buffers were cleared for the negotiating session. What I understood later, what I think I was too close to see clearly in the moment, was what the Compact had actually been shown, not a fleet. Fleets, they understood. 600 years of doctrine was precisely a system for understanding fleets. What they had been shown was a choice. We had held 8 dreadnoughts in fold space for 6 hours, inside sensor range of their border, and had come through with 1 ship and good manners. We had listened to the insult. We had waded through the dismissal. And when we finally showed what we had, we showed it without firing, without threatening, without even raising our voice. And then we asked, again, politely, whether they wanted to talk about corridor access. The Compact spent 4 centuries building a doctrine of supreme naval presence. We had matched it, exceeded it, placed it inside our own geometry, and then set it aside like a tool we didn't currently need. That distinction, between cannot and chose not to, was the thing Vethran was still working out when he finally opened the negotiating channel. 40 minutes later. I don't think he ever fully finished working it out. Neither did they. That was, I suppose, the point.